My parents were unaware that my grandparents had other ideas, and they intended to give their favorite daughter my portion of the fortune. I, 28M, am from a family with a convoluted and lengthy history of partiality. My younger sister Amy, 25F, has always been given preference by my parents, particularly my dad, over me. Our favoritism only grew worse as we grew older, having begun when we were young. Amy has always been the ideal child, even in my earliest recollections. Our parents threw her an elaborate birthday party complete with a petting zoo, face painters, and a bouncy castle when I was 5 and she was 2. That same year, I received a store-bought cake and a little family supper for my birthday. For years to come, this set the standard. The differences showed themselves more as we aged. Amy was usually the one with the most attention, the best clothes, and the newest toys. I used to save my allowance for months in order to get a new bike when I was 10 years old. Amy pitched a fit when she saw it since she too want one. Rather than imparting financial lessons or encouraging her to wait, my parents went out and purchased an even better bike for her than I had. Another setting where the partiality was evident was school. Amy's parents attended every school function, but they frequently missed mine. I played the lead in the school play in 4th grade. I spent weeks practicing because I was so excited. My parents arrived an hour late on the night of the performance, missing my big moment. They claimed to be tending to Amy's stomach problem. She was all right, I found out later. They had been playing with her and had lost all sense of time. Nothing I did ever seemed to be good enough academically. I joined the math club, received straight A's all through middle school, and even won a regional science fair. My parents hardly gave these accomplishments any recognition. However, they surprised Amy with a dinner party and a new phone as a way to encourage her to keep getting better when she received a B+ on a test in her least favorite subject. It was really difficult in high school. I immersed myself in whatever endeavor I could in an attempt to gain their acceptance. I had a 4.0 GPA, was the debate team captain, and edited the school newspaper. Amy, on the other hand, breezed through school, managing to maintain a meager C average while primarily engaging in social events with her pals. I was one of 2 kids from our school chosen to participate in a famous summer program at Harvard during my junior year. I was ecstatic, it was a great honor. My dad scowled and shifted the conversation to Amy's impending dance performance when I broke the news to him at dinner. At least. My mother responded, "That's nice," and promptly moved on. My parents didn't want to miss Amy's recital, so they were unable to bring me to the airport the night of the recital, which coincided with my departure for Harvard. I needed a ride, so I had to ask a friend's parents. The process of applying to colleges was an additional unpleasant experience. I refined for months, writing essays, taking part in extracurricular activities, and SAT preparation. I got scholarships to my preferred school and was admitted into several elite universities. My parents were, to put it mildly, mincing words when I broke the news to them at dinner. "That's great, but don't let it get to your head," my father advised. "Education is not everything." "Just remember us when you're out becoming a big shot," my mom continued. On the other hand, my parents fully supported Amy when she chose against attending college after barely finishing high school. They commended her for being true to herself and resisting social pressure to fit in. As a graduation gift, they even purchased her a car, something they never did for me. My emotional state suffered greatly as a result of this ongoing partiality. Throughout my teens and the first part of my 20s, I battled anxiety and despair. In college, I began seeing to a therapist, which made it easier for me to accept that my parents' actions weren't my responsibility. Years of effort were required to raise my self-esteem. But I was able to do so and create a nice life for myself in spite of my immediate family's lack of encouragement. By the time I was 27, I had bought my own house, landed a solid career in finance, and graduated with honors from college. Even though my parents don't share my pride in my accomplishments, I do. This is where the drama of the moment begins. Recently, my dad's side grandma passed away. He was a prosperous businessman who started from nothing and left behind a substantial estate. He left his possessions equally to his children, my dad and his siblings, as well as to his grandkids, Amy and our cousins. I received a sizable inheritance share of roughly $500,000. I could have invested in my future, paid off my education loans, and possibly even launched my own company someday with that money. I was appreciative of this lucky break and the prospects it might present. But my parents were clearly disturbed when the will was read. Afterward, they drew me aside and told me they didn't think I should have received an equal portion. They argued that because Amy was having difficulties, she needed the money more. She lives in the basement of our parents and works part-time at a coffee shop. I tried not to freak out even though I was shocked. I clarified that they couldn't override Grandpa's decision because that was his. They were adamant that I should give Amy my part and act morally. They were irate and began guilt-tripping me, accusing me of being ungrateful and selfish when I refused. My father listed all the times they had helped me that he could recall. He remembered letting me live at home during college even. Though I worked part-time to help with expenditures, purchasing me the absolute minimum of school materials, and covering the cost of my braces, which were a medical necessity. He conveniently forgot about their car purchase, their endless shopping binges, and the fact that even at 25, they continued to support Amy. Things immediately got out of hand. As the will's executor, my father made the decision to handle things personally. He said that, in addition to Amy's bequest, he would reinterpret Grandfather's intentions and give her my full part. He said that if he had known about our unique situation, this is what Grandfather would have wanted. I was inconsolable. Not only was this obviously against the law, but it also served as a sobering reminder of how little my parents appreciated me. I made an effort to reason with them by emphasizing that Grandfather had always treated each of his grandkids fairly, and that he was well aware of our circumstances. My mother then accused me of speaking ill of the dead by implying that my dad's proposal was not what Grandpa would have wanted. When I brought up particular memories of my grandfather supporting my academic and professional goals, my parents wrote them off as miscommunications. They said that in private, Grandpa had expressed worry for Amy's future and wanted to make sure she was taken care of. They had no response when I asked why he hadn't just written the will that way back then. For her part, Amy appeared uneasy in the circumstance, didn't voice any criticism of our parents. She shrugged and told me that Mom and Dad knew best when I sought to have a private conversation with her. She was obviously not going to be of any assistance. I sought counsel from Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandma, feeling deceived and offended. When she learned what was going on, she became enraged. She informed me that my parents had no authority to alter the will, and that this was definitely not what Grandpa had wanted. Some facts that Grandma revealed helped to clarify the problem. It seems that my parents had asked Grandpa to give everything to Amy in his will a few years prior. Grandpa had adamantly declined, saying he thought all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. In his will, he had even included a clause that said that anyone who disagreed with the equitable distribution would lose their portion. Equipped with this knowledge, I went up to my parents. They were taken aback to learn that Grandma had informed me about their prior attempt to sway the will. My dad attempted to defend it by claiming that they were only considering Amy's future, but I could see the shame written all over their faces. Grandma got to work right away. She got in touch with her attorney and the other will executors. She also got in touch with my dad's siblings, who were just as furious about what he was attempting to accomplish. Together, they foiled my dad's scheme and made sure the will would be carried out exactly as it was intended. Even though my parents had to concede, they are still quite angry with me. I turned the family against them, they said. He declared that I ought to have taken care of this internally, rather than enlisting help. My mother sobbed as she described how I had deceived them and torn the family apart. I told my dad that I never expected anything from them anyway, and he threatened to completely cut me out of their will. Now, they're essentially saying that if I take their money, they'll cut me off entirely. My father even went so far as to threaten to throw me out of their house if I accept the inheritance. In a particularly depressing blow, my mother said that accepting the money proves I never truly loved them and was only hoping to profit from their passing. The rest of the family disagrees on the matter. A few of my cousins are encouraging, acknowledging my long-standing partiality, and complimenting me on my self-advocacy. Others argue that family unity is more important than money and that I should have just given in to keep things peaceful. My parents and my dad's siblings are at odds because my dad's siblings strongly support me. Amy finds herself entangled in all of this. In private, she confided in me that although she feels bad about it and didn't ask for it, she won't confront our parents. Not that I blame her totally. Her entire life, she has been conditioned to depend on them and pursue their favor. Nevertheless, I hope she would stand with me. For once. This has rekindled a great deal of long-standing anger and hurt. I can't help but reflect on all the occasions when Amy was given preference, or I was disregarded. The school functions my parents missed, the birthday celebrations I didn't have, and the accomplishments that were not acknowledged. It seems as though this one incident is the culmination of a lifetime of injustices. I'm not giving up, and I'm going to take my fortune like my grandfather intended. However, the entire affair has severely damaged the family's bond. Family get-togethers have become unpleasant and awkward, and my parents hardly talk to me anymore. For the first time ever, I skipped our monthly family meal last week because I was too afraid of their accusing looks and chilly shoulders. I feel a tiny bit more empowered. I am finally voicing my disapproval of my parents' mistreatment for the first time in my life. I'm standing up for myself and not letting go. It's simultaneously freeing and terrifying. Though I think I'm in the right here, I'm becoming tired of the drama in my family. I have not had an anxiety attack since college, but they have started again. I'm thinking of returning to therapy in order to manage all of this stress. Is it wrong of me to accept my inheritance instead of caving in to my parents' pressure? Was it better for me to just give Amy the cash to make everyone happy? I'm afraid of losing my family completely, but I'm also tired of being the family's scapegoat. Any thoughts or suggestions would be much valued. Update. About 6 months have passed since my last post, and a lot has transpired. I would want to thank everyone for their guidance and support. It was a huge assistance in keeping me strong throughout a trying period. Let me start by talking about the legal aspect of this. As numerous individuals advised, I did seek legal advice from my own attorney. He affirmed that I was entitled to my inheritance, and that what my dad attempted to accomplish was, in fact, unlawful. He assisted me with all the paperwork and got ready to file a lawsuit if needed. Fortunately, such was not the case. Without going to court, my dad's brothers, my grandma, and her attorney were able to work things out. I received my entire fortune, and the will was carried out exactly as stated. My father's attempt to falsify the will resulted in his removal as an executor. This was an extremely stressful process that took several weeks to complete. There were angry phone calls, uncomfortable meetings, and even a few lawsuit threats from my parents. Eventually, though, they had to concede since the law was unambiguous. On the other hand, there has been and continues to be a major family fallout. At first, my parents reaffirmed their stance. They said that I was heartless and avaricious toward my sister. They even made an attempt to turn other family members against me by disseminating false information, claiming that I had managed to con Grandpa into giving me money. Luckily, the majority of the family was able to recognize their deceit. Approximately 1 month after the will was resolved, there was an especially unpleasant occurrence during a family get-together. My parents unexpectedly arrived. They raised a commotion because my aunt was hosting and hadn't invited them. My father became enraged, accusing me of robbing Amy and turning Granny against them. With great drama, my mother dropped an old photo album at my feet, telling me that I had ruined all these wonderful memories. Several family members had to intervene to defuse the awkward and painful situation and request that my parents depart. My grandmother, God bless her, stood up for me the most during this whole ordeal. She told tales of how my grandfather had always been pleased with my achievements, and that he had a particular desire to make sure all of his grandchildren had the same opportunities, possessed equal chances. She even disclosed that my grandfather had a scrapbook filled with my accomplishments. Newspaper cuttings showcasing my academic achievements, copies of my letters of acceptance to college, and even the play program from the school performance my parents had been late for. This was a terrible and heartwarming revelation. Additionally, Grandma decided to clear the air with the rest of the family. She gathered the whole family my parents excluded for a conference at which she detailed my parents' history of partiality, events that I had either forgotten long ago or was unaware of. Having someone finally recognize the injustice I had endured for years was relieving, but it also reopened old wounds. In all of this, my sister Amy at last found her voice. She came to me in secret and apologized for not defending me sooner after some introspection and multiple in-depth talks with our grandmother. She acknowledged that she was aware of our parents' bias but had been too scared to speak out against it. We had a very emotional and lengthy conversation about our upbringing and how it impacted us both. Being the favorite child wasn't as wonderful as it sounded, Amy said. She never learned how to stand on her own 2 feet and felt constant pressure to meet our parents' expectations. She related experiences when she tried to do things on her own, but our parents would step in and take care of everything, depriving her of the ability to develop and grow from her mistakes. Our relationship took a significant shift after this talk. We began mending the rift in our sibling relationship caused by our parents' partiality. Just the 2 of us had been getting together for coffee on a regular basis to chat and support one another during this time of turmoil in the family. Amy shocked everyone when she declared that she intended to attend college with her inheritance. She claimed that she was motivated to take charge of her own life by seeing me advocate for herself. She first enrolled in a nearby community college with the intention of transferring to a 4-year institution after determining her academic interests. Our folks were taken aback. I believe they recognized Amy hadn't benefited from their babying. My parents' responses to all of this have been inconsistent and changing. They were angry with both of us at first. They attempted to scare Amy into quitting college in order to help the family, accusing me of turning her against them. When it failed, they adopted a different strategy. My mom began to realize how damaging their behavior had been after having several lengthy chats with my grandma and observing Amy's positive developments. She's made some cautious moves in the direction of reconciliation. She even started therapy to address her problems. She apologized to me, acknowledging that she had been unjust and requesting an opportunity to put things right. I'm cautiously enthusiastic about the gradual process, but I'm also setting clear boundaries. Unfortunately, my dad hasn't been as eager to own up to his mistakes. He still feels like the victim in all of this, and he is furious. Since Amy made the decision to attend college, he has hardly spoken to me and has shown little warmth toward her. He's tried a few times to control us by threatening to sell our childhood home if we don't see the light or offering to forgive us if we just acknowledge our mistakes. Even though both of us are standing our ground, it hurts to see him act in such a way with both of his children. The dynamics of the extended family have changed dramatically. My dad's siblings and my grandmother have grown closer to me, and they have been incredibly encouraging. I feel less alone in this battle because my aunts and uncles have shared their own experiences coping with my dad's challenging conduct over the years. Additionally, I now have closer ties with a few of my supportive relatives. Every month, we've begun a cousin meal where we can all catch up without being burdened by drama from the older generation. In my case, I've been making good use of my inheritance. My college loans have been paid off, and this has greatly increased my sense of financial independence. I have diversified my investment holdings, with a financial advisor's assistance. In addition, I have some money set aside in case I ever decide to launch my own company. I'm considering the possibility of starting a community center that provides classes on financial literacy and accessible mental health care. However, I feel that paying for my own therapy and promising to do the same for Amy has been the most significant use of the money for me. Both of us are attempting to move past the traumas of our early lives and develop positive communication skills with our parents. The process is drawn out. However, I already feel like I'm getting closer to realizing and conquering the consequences of my long-term emotional neglect and favoritism. My life has changed in some unexpectedly good ways as a result of this entire experience. I've gained a lot of knowledge about defining limits and advocating for myself. I know I made the correct decision, even if it hasn't always been simple, and there are difficult days. I'm pleased with myself for resisting the guilt and pressure. My career ambitions have changed, which has been one of the most unexpected results. Having gone through therapy and dealing with all of this family drama has made me realize how dedicated I am about supporting others who have gone through similar family dynamics. I'm thinking of returning to school to become a family therapist with a focus on helping adult children whose parents are emotionally immature. Additionally, I've started mentoring young people from challenging homes at a nearby youth center as a volunteer. Being able to offer the kind of encouragement and support that I wish I received as a youngster is immensely fulfilling. I'm even considering establishing a scholarship fund for children in like circumstances with a portion of my inheritance. Amy and I have a better friendship now. Every month, we've decided to set aside a day for siblings when the two of us do something enjoyable. We had a picnic and went trekking last month, and it was the most at ease and bonded we had felt since we were young children. We're gradually mending our relationship independently of our parents, on our own terms. Things remain difficult. Mom has been trying to get our relationship back on track. She has been going to therapy on a regular basis and has even begun to admit some of the damage that her partiality caused. We've had some candid, although challenging, talks about our history and how we can go ahead at a few one-on-one lunches. Although it's not flawless, it's a start. But my dad is still averse to change. He continues to insist that he'd done nothing improper. Additionally, that Amy and I lack gratitude. His refusal to be in the same room as me has caused him to skip a number of family gatherings. I'm coming to understand that I have no power over his behavior or to make him see things my way, even if it hurts. For Amy and me, Grandma has grown to be a rock. She has continued to tell us stories about our grandfather and express her pride in us for being able to advocate for ourselves. She has also demonstrated exceptional mediation skills in family disputes, consistently promoting equity and comprehension. I've learned a lot about the genuine meaning of family throughout the entire experience. I've come to understand that the family you choose can occasionally provide greater support than the one you are born into. My aunts, uncles, and cousins who supported me grew closer to me, and through all of this, I've made a close-knit group of friends who have been nothing but supportive. I've also come to understand how crucial boundary setting and self-care are. I no longer feel bad about putting my health first, and I'm growing better at turning down opportunities that could jeopardize my emotional well-being. I've even begun pursuing interests and activities that I had previously put off since I was so preoccupied with trying to please my parents. I want to encourage those who are in similar circumstances to not let anyone make them feel bad about getting what is legitimately theirs. Speaking out for yourself is acceptable, even if it results in disagreement. Even though family relationships can be challenging, you should always be treated fairly and with respect. Never forget that you may always begin the process of healing and creating the life you deserve. If therapy is necessary, get it. Be in the company of encouraging individuals and don't hesitate to establish boundaries. Who you are as a person determines your worth, not how your family treats you. Once again, I want to thank everyone who helped and advised me. It was during a particularly trying period, so it meant more than you realize. Even though the trip hasn't been simple, I have optimism and confidence in myself that I haven't felt in a long time as I look forward to the future. I'm looking forward to where this new phase of my life will take me, and I'm determined to end the cycle of partiality and build stronger bonds with my own future family.